Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a medieval workshop. This build can be styled in a number of ways, meaning it can be a perfect standalone base or act as a versatile addition to any medieval town. I'll be showing you step by step how to create this build and how I would style it in the world to really emphasize that workshop theme. Let's get into the tutorial. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind it's always useful to have a few extra of each supply on hand, and if you're having trouble getting any of the items, leave a comment and I can offer some substitutions. Here is the outline for today's build. You can see the lighter color concrete there marks out where the main structure of this build will go. It is a 9x7 rectangle. Then in the darker color concrete, we've got the workshop yard as well as the chimney, and you'll want to allow a little bit of space around this outline for all of the details. We're going to start by working on the framework for the main part of the build. I've got some spruce logs here and I'm going to build up 5 high on all 4 corners. I'll then build up a column in the 2 centers of the longer sides. This will leave 2 3-wide spaces. I'm also going to add an interior wall in here, although you can leave this out if you'd like. Now that those are in, I'm going to connect up all of these with a beam made out of spruce log. I'm also connecting up to the interior post. Just like this. Now in the center of the 2 long sides, I'm going to come to the middle and count 1 block out to each side, and then place a log in the center of each of these 3-wide sections. This will leave a 3-wide gap in the middle. I'm going to add 3 more blocks for a total post height of 4 and connect these across. I'll do this on the back side as well. Then in the center of here, I'm going to build up 2 blocks. Now on the 2 short sides, we're going to add in a tall gable. So I'm going to place an extra log on top of these 2 posts. Then I'm going to leave 1 block gap and build up 5 high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll connect those across here and add 2 more logs on top. Just like this. And I'll do this on the back side over here as well. I'm going to take a few more of these spruce logs and I'm going to place one sticking out from the top of each of these 5 high posts at the base. I'll have a log coming out of these 2 5 high posts on the tall gables, and out of the top of these 4 high posts. And then on the top of the 4 gable points, I'll build out 2 logs like this. Here is how all of our framework should look. Now before we fill in all of the walls, we're going to mark in where the windows and doors will be going with some temporary blocks. I'm using red wool, but you could even use dirt for this. So we've got a 2 high door here on the right hand side of the front, and beside that I'm going to have a 2 high window centered in this panel. On this short wall that's connected up to the workshop yard, I'm going to mark in a 3x3 square for the doorway. Coming around to the back of the build, this panel is going to be free from a window, but this one opposite the smaller door will have a 2 high window in the center like this. Finally, around on this other short side, we've got the fireplace on one end of the wall, and then I'm going to mark in a 2 high window 1 block away from here, just like this. Coming up to the upper story, we have no windows on this gable. I'm going to mark in a 2 high window on this gable, This will connect up here to the roof. On this side, I'll mark in a 2-high window. And back around here, I'll have one more 2-high window in the center. Next, I'm going to grab some polished andesite and andesite blocks and begin filling in the floor. So we've got 2 rooms here, this room next to the large door, and then over here we're going to have another room, but we've got a wall in line with this center post. So I'm going to be creating a sort of checkerboard pattern with my andesite and my polished andesite, but I'll leave a gap here. Leave this gap and I'll continue over this way. Of course, in survival, you could use slabs where I'm using blocks to save on some resources. I'm also going to grab some dark oak slabs and begin filling in the floor of the level above. I'm leaving out a gap here beside where the doorway is, so that way I can place in a ladder. And it's also a good idea to place some torches into your build at this point. By using slabs, we create the looks of beams in the roof of this story of the build. There we are. For the walls on the lower story, we're going to be using a mixture of bricks, granite, and terracotta, and I'll be placing these in a randomized texture to create the look of aged walls. Each of your walls can be a little bit different, so don't worry about following a set plan. It's a good idea though to take a step back once you've completed a wall and you can make any adjustments you like to the design. There we go, on to the next one. You might find it easier to go ahead and place in all the blocks one by one like this, or to work layer by layer. It's just about finding a texturizing sequence that works well for you. Of course, if you use more of the terracotta and the granite than the brick, you're going to have a more aged appearance to your build. If you're enjoying today's tutorial and would like to access some additional benefits like world downloads or schematics for this and all my other builds, as well as access to a multi-world server where you can build alongside me, be sure to check out my Patreon. I would really appreciate your support and I'd love to have you join my community. There we are. Now that I've got all of these walls placed in, I can remove the temporary blocks from the lower story. I'm also going to go ahead and use some more of my polished andesite and my regular andesite to fill in the floor underneath both of my doorways. And then I can come inside and use the same brick type materials to fill in these interior walls. There we are. Coming back over to the other side of the lower story, I'm going to use some brick stairs to create an archway for this door. Now I'm going to grab some stripped pale oak logs to begin filling in the walls of the attic space. I'm going to start by using these stripped pale oak logs to fill in around the window spaces on the 2 dormer windows. I want to make sure all of these logs are facing the same direction, upwards. In the gable above these dormer windows, I'll place in 1 block off to each side. This will create the look of a point. Now on to the taller gables. I'll be building up 3 high on this end on both sides with my stripped pale oak logs, and then on top and below the window. Around on the other side where we've got our chimney, I'm going to be using 3 stone bricks to build up. Then I'll have my stripped pale oak logs off to the other side and just fill in the 5 blocks in the center with those pale oak logs just like this, or rather 4 blocks in the center. Now I'm going to grab 4 barrels and I'll just be placing these in the 4 gaps connecting up the rectangle like that. And I can also place my glass in now. So where we've got the temporary blocks on the upper story, I'll be using some of the white stained glass panes like this, and then on the lower story, I'll be using white stained glass blocks instead. Before we add in the details on the roof, I'm going to place in the chimney. So I've got a whole bunch of stone brick materials here. I'm going to start by placing 3 stone bricks across the base and then a chiseled stone brick coming forward. I'll place in another stone brick with a chiseled stone brick on top and then use an upside down and right way up stair to create a curve on each side like this. Coming forward, I'll place in one more stair and then a wall. I'll place in a wall off to this side. Then I'll add in 2 more stone brick blocks and 1 more wall coming forward. I'm going to place in a stair now, 2 of my stone brick walls, and then we need to move on to the section of the chimney that'll be sticking out from the roof. I'm going to start by placing a stone brick block coming back into the build from behind like that. Then I'm going to add another block on top of here, and then I'm going to add in 3 blocks coming up behind and then curve back in to create a gap. And in this gap, I'm going to be placing in an upside down stair like this. On top of this barrel, I'll place in 2 stone bricks with a stair upside down facing towards this shorter end of the build. I'm going to add a block on top of that and then use an upside down and a right way up stair to create a curve. Coming to the back of this right way up stair, I'll place a stair going towards the workshop side of the build and then a stair facing the other direction, both upside down like this. I'm going to place 2 stone bricks over on this side, so one's going on top of this right way up stair and one's on top of the upside down stair. And off to this side, I'll place in a wall. I'm going to place in a stair on top of that wall and then an upside down stair connected to that. This space here is where our first campfire is going, so I will leave that clear for now. On top of this upside down stair, I'm going to place in another stone brick wall and then another stone brick stair upside down facing out that way to create a sort of C shape. On top of this block, I'll add in my stone brick and then another stair in here. This one is placed right way up. On top of here is where our second campfire is going to go, but to continue the rest of the chimney, I'm going to need to place a temporary block there for now. That way I can place in another upside down stone brick stair. To finish off this chimney, I'm going to add in a chiseled stone brick and then a stone brick block. And on top of here is our final campfire. And I'm going to place these 3 in and surround them with some dark oak trapdoors. Here is how our chimney should be looking. Next, I'm going to be adding some dark oak decorations to this build, starting by creating a small archway above each section with a stair on either side and connecting with a slab. I'm also going to do this up here in the 2 dormer windows. On the 2 short sides where we have the 5 wide section, I'll need 3 slabs. And in this taller gable, I'm going to be placing a slab in between these 2 logs. On this side where we've got the chimney, I can place my top slab in here. But then at the base, I'll just need 1 stair and my 3 slabs, as there is a block in the way of the other stair. Now that all of those are in, I'm going to add in some decorations to the posts. Excluding this post here where I'm just going to place in 1 stair and 1 fence, I'm going to be placing in 2 stairs and connecting with 2 fences to each of these lower story posts. You'll also notice that on this side where we've got the chimney, I'll just place in 1 stair on one of the posts. There we go. Onto these taller gables, I'll be placing in some fences just in front of each of the posts, and then above here onto that slab. On the 2 dormer windows, I'll be placing in 2 dark oak stairs and then a fence on each of the posts and connecting up here with 1 more fence. Here is how this is all looking. It's already starting to look pretty cool. Next, we're going to be working on the roof, for which I'll be using tough bricks. Now, I'm also going to be using some plain tough items to add texture, but I'll be doing that afterwards. So we're going to be starting by following the shape created by these larger gables, beginning with some tough brick stairs, just placed along like this. Then I'll have a layer of blocks, followed by stairs, blocks again, and at this layer we're going to connect up to the smaller gable by placing in some stairs here. I've got a layer of stairs on top of this, which I'll wrap around to connect up. A layer of blocks next, which I'll build across this way and connect up to some stairs on this smaller gable, finishing with a layer of stairs here. And I'm going to finish before I get to the center of the smaller gable. So I'll repeat this same process in the other 3 corners. So the front is looking like this and the back is going to be essentially the same, but because we've got this chimney here, we just need to leave out a few blocks. So we've got a layer of stairs, then a block and a stair. Then we've got the chimney coming into play, so I'm going to leave most of this out and jump up to where we've got the small gable. This is just groups of stairs going up. And then we need to connect up at the back here. So the best way to do this is to line up with where the gable would be. So I'm going to place a row of blocks here with stairs on top. And we're going to come down to 1 more layer of stairs, which will curve around and connect up to this smaller gable. And I can place in my final stair there. Onto the last corner, which is fairly straightforward, just following along with the gable shapes. There we go. Now to extend onto these larger gables, I'll be using just stairs. So where we've got upright stairs, I can just extend that out by 1 block. Then where we've got these gaps, I'm going to be placing an upside down stairs like this. There we go. Over to the other end. Because we've got the chimney in the way, it can seem a little bit more confusing, but we're just doing the same process. Placing in the upright stairs, coming back down on the other side. Now, I'm going to line up my other stair with this block, so I can just go ahead and place that in. Then I'll add in an upside down stair underneath each of these. While I've got these stairs out, I'm also going to place an upside down stair in these 2 places on the smaller gables. There we go. To finish off the tops of the 2 smaller gables, I'm going to add in a tough stair to connect both sides, and then using 2 more, I'll create a swoop like this and connect with a couple of slabs. There we go. Now we need to do the top, so we're going to grab some blocks and build all the way across like this. To add a design to the top of here, we're going to create the same swoops using 2 stairs. And then I'll alternate between wall and slab across the rest of the roof. Here's how it will look. Now you can leave the roof like this, but I'm going to texturize. There we go. To texturize this roof, all I did was replace some of the tough brick blocks with plain tough equivalent. And you can add as much or as little texturization as you like. keeping in mind that the more of the plain tuff you add, the more aged your build will appear. Now let's add some decorations to these windows and the doors. For the 2 dormer windows, I'll place in 3 stone brick slabs like this, and then I'm using these brown banners with a window shutter design. You could use trapdoors in place here if you'd like, but they do have a wonderful feel that kind of breaks away from the standard blocks in Minecraft. There we go. For this smaller window, I'm just going to add in 1 slab. And now onto the lower story windows. For this, we're going to be creating a more robust looking design. We're placing in a chiseled stone brick here with a stair on either side as well as above. Then I'll use 2 more stairs to create an archway, and I'm placing in 4 walls. Finally, I'll add in some iron bars to connect it up. Let's do this on the other 2 windows. There we go. For the smaller entryway door, we're going to create a simple design using walls on either side, a slab in the center, and then 2 stairs to create an archway. Just like this. For this larger door, we're going to create a more intricate look. So I'm going to use 2 stairs right way up and then upside down on either side like this. Then I'll place in 2 more right way up and then upside down to create an archway. I'll place in a chiseled stone brick in the center with 2 slabs. Now for the actual door for this entry, we're going to be using some spruce trapdoors. I'll place them 2 high and then 3 high, and again 2 and then 3. And then I'll be using some tripwire hooks, which I'll need to hold crouched to place onto these trapdoors, and they look like big barn type doors. Next, I'm going to be using a stone brick to create the wall for this workshop area. I'm going to be using it, building 2 blocks high all the way around this outline. So we're coming out 2 diagonally, then across 3, across another 3. I'm going to be building across here, which is a total of 8 blocks, leaving off where we have these 2 blocks sticking in towards the workshop area. I'll then come 2 diagonally forward, 1 here, and then 2 more to connect up. There should be a 3 block gap between these 2 stone brick sections. Now I'm going to create a fireplace on this 8 wide wall. Coming to the outside section, I'm going to count 2 blocks across, and then on this 3rd block, I'm going to create a little curve with some stone brick stairs. I'll place in a chiseled stone brick and another stair upside down, and then 2 more to create a curve on the other side. Coming up from here, I'm going to place in 3 more of my stone bricks. I'll place in a stair on top of here. Then I'll place in 2 more stone bricks, and off to one side I'll add in 2 stairs curving again, and on the other side I'll place a stair right way up and a stair upside down facing away from the build. I'll place in a couple of stone brick walls next, and we're going to continue up. So I'll place in a right way up stair here and an upside down stair facing towards the front of the build. I'll place a right way up stair on top of that and an upside down stair facing away from the build. I'll place in 2 more of my stone bricks on top of here, and this is where our first campfire will go. But for now, I'm just going to place in a temporary block. That way I can add in an upside down stone brick stair facing towards the back of the build, and then add in 2 more stone bricks. I can remove this temporary block now as this section is complete. Now I'm inside the build to work on the front face of the fireplace. So I'm going to begin by placing in a couple of magma blocks. I've got 3 in a sort of right angle like this, centered on the center of the chimney, and 1 coming up to the side. I'm also going to grab some polished andesite and place them in a curved shape like this, with a campfire in the center. Now to work on the fireplace itself, I'm going to place in a chiseled stone brick to either side of the chimney base. There should be a 1 block gap between it and the wall on this side and a 2 block gap on the other side. Now I'll grab some stairs. I'm going to place 1 in upside down on either side. I've got some slabs next, 2 at the same height of these stairs and then 1 above. and I'll finish with one more stair in the center. Atop here, I'm going to be placing in a stone brick block, and then I'm going to place in an upside down stair again. I'm going to place in 2 stairs, one facing upside down and one facing right way up, both towards the front of the build, and I'll finish off with one more block and 2 walls. Here's how it looks. I'm going to grab some iron bars and I'm going to place 4 coming around kind of the corner section here of the fireplace. Up top, I can add in my campfires for the chimneys now and surround them with some dark oak trapdoors. Now onto the rest of the walls and the gateway. For the gateway arch, I'll place in a chiseled stone brick on either side. Then I've got some stairs. I'll place one right way up and then upside down on both edges, coming in towards the center, and I'll finish off with 2 slabs and one more chiseled stone brick. Next, I'm going to create a kind of crenellation pattern on top of the wall. I'm going to start with a stone brick slab here, then a wall, then a slab, then a wall. On the other side of the chimney, I'll start with a wall and then a slab and alternate all the way around the build. There we go. On the other side of here, I'm going to start with a wall and then a slab. Now I need to add in a gate. To create this gate, I'm going to be using iron bars and some chains. I'll place 3 iron bars going up on either side and then one coming out from the top and bottom. I'll connect these up with a chain. And I'm going to finish off this gate by placing 2 more iron bars on top. Because we've got a stair here, it's not going to connect up, so it'll give the gate a curved top edge. There we go. Next, I'm going to be adding in a covered entryway above this door. I'll start by filling in the door with a spruce door. Then I'm going to grab some spruce logs. I'll count 2 blocks out from this stair, and on the 3rd block I'll place in a spruce log. I'll count 3 across and add in 1 more. I'm going to connect these up on 2 of the sides with some stone brick walls, and then I'll place one on top of each of the spruce logs. Next, I've got some iron bars. I'll connect across here and across here with these. And I'm going to be creating a gate. So I'll come 2 blocks out like this, add 1 more on top, add in a chain, and finish with 2 more on top of that. There we go. I've got some fences now, and I'll place 1 on top of each of these walls. And we're going to create a roof out of some tough blocks now. We're using slabs here, and we're using a mixture of tough and tough brick slabs to create that texturized look like we have on the rest of the roof. We're just going up a slab height at each time. You can texturize as you go or after you've created the shape. There we are. The final detail we'll add to this section is a couple of plain dark oak signs. Just like that. Now that this covered entryway with its gate and fence are complete, I'm going to come around to the back of the build to add in a covered wood storage area. For this, I'll be using spruce slabs, trapdoors, and campfires. And you're going to be using a sort of random assortment of these, so you want to have quite a few on hand, so that way you can create a textured look. For this, I'm going to be building 3 out from these 2 stairs, and then 1 back into this gap. You can see I'm just kind of randomly placing in both the slabs, the campfires, and then some trapdoors to get a textured look. Yours might not look exactly the same as mine, and that's totally okay. Every one of these is going to be unique. Remember that campfires are directional, so depending on which way you're placing them, they're going to have a different look. So make sure you change up the direction you're standing when adding these in. I'm also going to place a few extra of these trapdoors underneath, and then I'll use a shovel to put out my campfires, and I can look at how this has all come together. I think that looks pretty good. Next, I'll grab some dark oak fences and place 3 down from the 2 outermost corners. You'll find that these fences sit 2 blocks away from the stairs and 3 blocks apart from each other. Let's add in some lighting next. I'm going to hang a lantern from underneath this wood storage. I'm going to add in some grindstones onto these posts sticking out from here and hang some chains and lanterns on top of each of these gables. You can have these chains hanging at various heights. Last one of these. There we go. I'm also going to be placing one underneath this entryway. Let's see, I might place one in there. And I'm going to come inside the build to make sure I add in my ladder going up to the attic space. And I'm going to place a few lanterns in while I'm up here. There we go. Alright, I've come back outside now to check out all the finishing details. The first thing you'll notice is I've placed my workshop in a town with lots of other medieval builds, and I've used a mixture of gravel and dead coral blocks to create a natural pathway connecting it up to all of the areas. I've added in lots of greenery for a lush feel, so you can see I've draped some of these birch leaves over the roof and used them to create bushes around the base of the build and then in front and beside and behind the build as well to really blend it into the landscape. I've used the trees to frame an area for the garden, and that helps to separate each of the builds within your medieval town and give them their own space to shine. Some of the details I've added to the build itself include adding in some pot plants. So I've added these on the windowsill and then in the little covered areas here, as well as in the workshop area. Let's take a step back and we're going to have a walk around our little workshop to check out some of the decorations I've added to really emphasize that workshop theme. You can see here off to the right side of the pathway, I've placed in a well. Now I've gone with a well here that has a hay bale cross, and that ties in with all of the wheat fields all around my workshop, although you could go with any style of well you like. Over this way, as we head towards the workshop entry, I've placed in a cart carrying in some materials. And then as we go through these large iron gates, you can see all of the workshop necessities. I've placed in different furnaces with chimneys, I've got my anvil, I've got a quenching bath for all of my blacksmithing needs. And if I come into this part of the workshop, you can see I've created a cozy indoor place. I've used item frames to display some items here on the ground and on the tables to really bring the space to life. Taking a look from above, you can see the layout I've used to create a nice flow throughout the workshop. You can see I've kept the pathway from the gate through to the interior fairly clear, that way it encourages you to walk through and explore. I've also used some barrels here both for decorative and storage purposes, and you can see over this way I created a custom barrel which I filled with some honey, although you can fill it with any block to achieve a different look. Let's leave this section of the workshop and have a walk around to the back. You can see I've switched to a more cobbled pathway with little spaces in between, and I've placed in lots of grass and then white flowers around the base. As we come towards the back of the build, I've placed in a sort of wood chop or tree felling area. We can see some wood that's being processed here, which I placed at an angle. I've placed in a stone cutter, or in this case it's acting as a wood cutter, and some axes on the ground. And I've even replicated one of the Minecraft trees lying on its side to emphasize the look of this area. If we continue following the path around to the back, we can see I've placed in a little stack of wood underneath the wood store we completed earlier. Using some more of these put out campfires alongside some oak logs really gives the look of both larger firewood and kindling. So now you have a cozy medieval workshop in your world. Be sure to join my Discord server and share some pics of your build, and if you enjoyed today's tutorial, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you in another video.